Hey everybody, this is the G4 Podcast episode 3. It's the renewed version. And today we have Epic with us.
Wow.
And we also have Iriest.
Me.
So today we're going to be speaking about the Nvidia CES 2025 keynote. Also the AMD CES 2025 keynote, although there isn't very much to speak on that, but we'll speak about whatever's there. And then we'll also speak on the Intel Arc battlemage releases. And then for our last topic, we'll be looking at the NZXT scam that recently occurred. Now, I say recently, it was a little ago, but it's we have a couple things to say about that. Just from a consumer perspective. So, anyways, so we'll go right ahead to the Nvidia CES 2025 keynote. So, from what I understand so far, we've got a range of Nvidia RTX cards that have recently come out. That range from their 5070 to a 5070 Ti, a 5080, and a 5090. Their 5070 is priced pretty well at a $549. And it's funny because we say that's priced well nowadays. Isn't it a little funny? Like back in the day, I remember a decently low end card would be like $300. You know, that was like reasonable back in the day. But now we're looking at 550 as reasonable because of price hikes.
If the claims that it's as good as a 4080 or 4090, I forgot what they said.
4090.
Then I'll gladly take that price.
But I'm very skeptical of those claims, and we'll get to that slowly. So again, I think pricing wise, like I understand why 550 is considered reasonable nowadays. It's still a little bit disappointing. Like again, a $550 card in the US is probably like a $700 card in Canadian land.
Canadian.
Yeah, no, it's just so much more. It's like a 30% increase for us. So it's like we're looking at a card that's almost $700, and we're thinking like that is, I'm not even sure of exactly how much the average paycheck is, but that's like almost like that approaches like a lot of people's like weekly funds.
It's definitely not cheap.
Yeah, it's not cheap no matter what way you look at it. The reasonableness has only happened because I think the market had been under a lot of attack from things like Bitcoin miners and just people who want to use the card for every other purpose than gaming. I think mining is really the biggest one, and that had influenced every single card to take a hit. Now AMD usually does better on those, which is also like incredibly a big loss on their side, that their cards are just better at crypto mining, so people don't grab these Nvidia cards for crypto mining. Rather, there are times when Nvidia cards get grabbed more for like render processes, like when some of these are render farm to like render an entire like series on Blender, or like I don't know. There are lots of different things people use that for, but like it's very common for them to have like a render farm to do those big pieces of work. But yeah, like I don't know, like I think nowadays I can't complain about that $550 price tag as much, just because we understand why it's there. But that 5090 performance, now that is a bigger claim. So what do you think, Epic?
They really were selling off on that AI, like DLSS4 and multi-frame generation features, or whatever you want to call them, for the new 50 series, and I think it's absolutely stupid. They are using that Apple-esque like marketing, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like, hey, it's pretty much this. And when in reality the specs don't line up. Like the raw performance of a 5070 doesn't actually line up with a raw performance of a 4090. It's not that. It's just because of it's a lot of software optimization, if you want to call it software optimization, but it's a lot of that. doing the heavy lifting, so they can just like pretty much advertise it as is, and not having to like further develop like hard or like graphics cards or whatever, or research. We have to do like the research, right? They could just like lay it back on it, on like the lower ends that like AR higher end is kind of like this now.
Well, the way how I see it is, I mean, Apple kind of started off the whole kind of pushing of localized AI, right? Just a moment.
Yeah.
Have pushed towards those localized AI systems. We're starting to see Nvidia start to take notice and want to develop their own kind of in-house AI. That's going to be on the cards, and that's the reason why they've got all these AI tops things. Now, my question is, so to gamers, the kind of raw use of AI beyond a graphical perspective in a graphics card is not really useful. Like your average gamer isn't gonna go on, anything other than ChatGPT and try and load up their own AI infrastructure. Like it's just not gonna happen.
Yeah.
We're all three of us are invested in some sort of computer background, right? I'm an IT professional.
I was just about to say towards the point of won't go and do their own AI stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
You say that while for the past like couple months I've been trying to write my own AI.
No, but I mean as in like the average person isn't. Even the average person who's into computers isn't just gonna jump into making their own AI model. It's not like it's not a universal thing, right? And selling it that way, I mean, to me it seems like the only thing that really matters in this AI from finish to end for consumers is what it ends up doing for graphics, right? Anything that changes on the graphics side is what we're looking for, right? But I also think that there is definitely going to be some drawbacks to it. I think one of the things that I realize with anything that uses any of the FSRs and DLSSs, those things, right? Intel also has their own XeSS, right? I realize there is definitely going to be some level of latency, some level of fidelity loss, and I especially kind of am thinking of that coming towards Nvidia cards. Now, again, I know it's an apples to oranges comparison, so I'm not going to say that, oh, well, doing this is the same as like Stadia, right? Like I know that in some cases people think, well, they're using a neural network that's on like their own servers or something, and now they're kind of bringing it towards you. But at the same time, like the whole, the whole process is that there's something else that's building the frames for you, so it's not the same. But like I do think that the latency is real. Like there is, even if it's on the card, the latency is a very real thing, and you could probably tell a little bit. I definitely think that if people start talking about like things like, having games like fully be generated by AI, like I don't know if you've seen like those posts where people have like an AI rebuild footage from a video game but make it look like very realistic or something, right? But
wasn't there that AI Minecraft thing for a while? Like it was entirely
so those ones were nowhere near as developed, but there were ones with like GTA 4 that were definitely way more developed. But still, you could see that there was like major points of fidelity loss, and I'm not sure if I can call it fidelity loss. It's really just inaccuracy. And I think that at the end of the day, like, it's going to be up to the consumer to decide whether or not that's acceptable, right? I personally think that like people who are trying to use the AI DLSS4 to replace rasterization don't necessarily appreciate the true amount of work that goes into having rasterization give you the results that it gives you. I think that some people think of it as like, well, if AI just does it better, has a higher frame rate, and higher resolution and higher everything. It's just doing it better, period, right? But I disagree. I think that, like, one of the best ways I can explain this, sorry, is, how Unreal Engine 5 has their kind of engine, right? Unreal Engine, sorry, what the fuck am I saying? Sorry. What I mean by that is, like, Unreal Engine 5, right? Their whole shader method is something that, like, people have had as a standard, right? And that standard, I think, over like some time, has become kind of, I wouldn't say a monopoly, but it's definitely become one of the most, like, respected and most refined and most used standards to this day, right? I think Nvidia is thinking about basically making the RTX, the ray tracing and its DLSS4 AI the standard of everything that has to do with rendering. But I feel like they're gonna run into the same problem Unreal Engine 5 is having, which is people are seeing too much of the same, right? And I mean, I think some people already see this, right? Like, when you go and look at a game with RTX, what do you notice right away? What's the first thing you notice?
I can't run it.
Well, that might be the case, but let's say you can run it. What do you notice? What's the first thing you always notice whenever a game says they've remastered for RTX or they've added RTX? Like, what is the first graphical thing? Like, the first thing you see, the ground,
Basically,
the walls,
it's like better lighting, honestly.
Well, yes, and I would say there's some weird anomalies about how the lighting is almost always reflective. Have you ever noticed that? Like, I know I've noticed that every time they've showed off RTX this and RTX that, as soon as RTX came out, I was like, wow, this just looks like higher reflection, right? And it looks cool.
Chrome is easier than diffuse material to render for light because it doesn't distort it.
Yeah, of course. But I think it's important to realize, like, there is a serious problem with how it's being used. If at least, I don't know about right now, I think it's a lot different, but I know that when the RTX series came out, there was definitely, like, a lot of things that, you would see reflections are just like, they just mirror like everywhere, right? I think the way how I described it was, I saw I think it was Portal with RTX, right? And that was their huge, like, oh look, you can play Portal with ray tracing now, and it was like, dude, every wall is just reflective. Everything's it's like you're just playing Portal but oiled up. Like, I'm not really seeing the use case beyond that. But
I think that also has to do with a lot of these games that get the RTX remasters and stuff, or mods to enable RTX.
Yeah.
Is under a certain point, just the actual fidelity of the game doesn't lend itself to RTX.
Yeah.
So you end up with stuff like that where it's really smooth textures that turn into mirrors.
Yeah, I think the developers just don't like put in the next layer of effort. And I think that's another problem too. And I think that's actually, that adds into, like, the Unreal Engine 5 thing I was talking about. Developers are running the Unreal Engine 5, and from what I understand, there's a lot of games under it. So there are some people who are seeing that games are just so similar to each other because developers aren't, putting an extra bit of touch on the engine at all. Like, they're basically just using the default engine, maybe adding one or two things, but that's about it. Like, they're not working with it to make their own, like, shader design or style, or, like, stylizing anything, right? That's what's causing a bit of a problem.
Yeah.
I know I see it later in the notes, but one thing I did want to kind of tie in with the whole graphics fidelity and blatant ray tracing is that this says that Indiana Jones requires ray tracing as a minimum spec.
Wow.
But from what I've seen of that game, it looks gorgeous. Like it lends itself to it because of its textures fidelity.
Oh yeah, no, I don't disagree that it can be used right. I just think that there's definitely a lot of developers that are kind of jumping the train, and they're not really like putting in the effort to actually make the ray tracing look realistic. Rather, it just looks super reflective and overdone. I do know that there's, like, again, there is an ongoing debate already about, you know, do we want games to look super realistic or do we want them to look stylized? And I think, you know, that's like an apples to oranges comparison, obviously. You can't really say that a stylized game versus a realistic game and which one's better. It's like, no. But I do think that there's definitely a lot of homogeneity between games.
Homogenization.
The homogenization of like a realistic look comes from the Unreal Engine 5 engine, and it discourages anyone from, not anyone, but it discourages a large amount of developers for going for like a stylized game because they already have the engine to make it look realistic. Why not just go that route? Right? It's kind of like the complete opposite of how it used to be. It used to be that every game was stylized and most games wouldn't really take a realistic approach. Now it's kind of the other way, where most games look realistic, and you know, the games that take a stylized look are the ones that are kind of respected for their stylized look. Like, for example, Minecraft and Fortnite. So, and again, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with either style or either rendering method or shader workflow. I just think that there's definitely a larger amount of realistic like games, and it's mostly to appease, or sorry, not to appease, but I bet it's mostly just due to the fact that it's so much easier to have that done. So
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is the initial stylization probably came out of necessity for being unable to render more realistic things, so they decided to put their own spin on it. So you could say, hey, it's purposefully not realistic. This is our touch to it. But now with everything being able to, like you said, all these assets available in Unreal Engine, there's people don't want to have the excuse. They're just like, they're here, I'll use them, rather than trying to go out of their way to make something. I don't want to say more artistic, because beauty's in the eye of the beholder and stuff.
yeah.
But it's like there seems less of a push for people to try and be more artistically expressionistic, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, there's also like the whole worry about how like people will, like, currently people are still having to draw their assets and, you know, buy some assets here and there, but then they're thinking in the future people are just gonna like AI generate them. I mean, they're already doing it, right? Like,
Oh yeah, look at Black Ops 6.
yeah, like, and I mean, for a lot of it, it's disastrous right now because it's like AI is so undercooked right now for that kind of development. And I'm not saying that it should be used. I'm just saying that even in like even like a method of just like having anything made with AI for that type of workload, it's just super undercooked. And like, again, I do think that in a procedural generation way, like, it wouldn't be too bad to have like some use of AI stuff, as long as it's like, you know, using assets to help procedurally generate things that are all made by the same company, like they're all artistically created. Like, for example, you know, if they had like an AI model that helped generate like creatures and structures and stuff for No Man's Sky, I don't think I'd be that bothered, right? As long as it was all just in-house, right? They didn't have the AI scrape the internet for references and things like that. I feel that there's some level to like allowing that kind of thing, because that's between them. Like, they can have a network that like recognizes what people like seeing in their galaxy. That's one thing I was just kind of thinking about. It's just like, they could have something like that, but I think in a general sense, like a core game that doesn't have any sort of procedural generation really shouldn't be trying to use AI for really any part of the game. Like with the exception of maybe optimization, but that brings us back to our kind of talk about, you know, the AI being used to optimize these cards. And I think this is where the issue really is that judging from the fact that they're making these claims, like how much of these claims are gonna be, you know, like actually I'll put it this way. Do you think rasterization and the combination of AI generated DLSS4 frames, are they apples to oranges comparisons? Like, are we looking at two different kind of like whole ways to play a game? I know that in some ways, like I know some people back in the day before we had 4K and 240 hertz or whatever, even higher, right? We used to have people who would split the path between 4K and 144 hertz, right? And we still kind of have that. Like, it's still in the budget market. That's what it is. It's you either go with a 4K monitor and, you know, hurt yourself by having like, you know, 60 hertz, or you go with the 144 hertz monitor, but then you might not be able to get 4K. It's unless you pay a lot of money, right?
I mean, that's the reason I run 1080p 144s, because it was cheap.
But like that's kind of like the thing, right? Like I think some people are gonna be like, well, I'm fine with rasterization, or sorry, with DLSS4, right? People will use that with their 5070 and say, oh, it looks just like the 4090, right? But then there might be someone with an actual 4090, and you could put it right beside each other and be like, huh, that looks a little bit different. Like, it doesn't look like that's rendering that correctly, and a couple other things. Now, again, I don't know how much of these claims I could really make without seeing it side by side. Nvidia is not going to give us a lot of these pieces of information for now, and we're going to have to wait until the cards are out, right? Sorry, just...
I don't know. It's just...
Yeah, go on.
I think with the AI generation stuff, like, I think game devs are just gonna be able to, like, try less hard now to, like, optimize their games.
Yeah, and I really hope that doesn't become a pitfall that AI developers...
Cough, Call of Duty, cough.
Yeah. Well, there's so many games, man. You know...
Oh, it's just Call of Duty is the first one I think of when I think of poorly optimized.
Look,
it's like,
I'll give you
what
this
was
one.
Warzone, like 200 gigabytes?
Yeah, I mean, I get that one. I was gonna say, like, you know, I'll give you this one, Epic. Like, back in the day when I actually even fucking played Warframe at all, I remember that game was so well optimized. It was one of the best optimized games at that time. It ran on a Dell Latitude E6-400, which is basically a garbage tier laptop that had like a, I don't know what CPU. It was like a really garbage CPU.
Who even knows at this point?
Yeah, it was so bad, and that thing ran Warframe pretty decently. It was able to run it and, you know, get me through places. And that I actually had like an Nvidia card in it, a Quadro something, some really weak card. But anyway, that laptop died a long time ago.
Yeah, I will say, I think Digital Extremes developers at Warframe are like one of the last few game devs who actually know how to optimize the game and compress their game files.
Yeah.
A few years ago, they actually halved the game size. It was coming up like 80 gigs, and they halved it to like 40.
Yeah.
And it's still around 40 gigabytes. It's like, holy shit, dude.
Yeah, I mean, 40 gigabytes is okay. Like, I think in my opinion, like, your average game, the best size for a game is 20, but I know that's like near impossible for all games. 40 is like, okay, well, they might have some DLCs and a lot more like kind of content to go with. And then 80 is like, oh, that's a pretty big game, right?
Genshin.
Anything
Yeah.
over Genshin is
Chill.
80 gigs?
Genshin is 80 gigabytes.
Unbelievable. I didn't even know. How in the heck is that game 80 gigs? I looked at the graphics in that game and it looks like it is not.
To be fair, I think I have like all of the language packs downloaded, which might be most of it.
Oh, that might explain it. So I was gonna have to fact check you on that. I was gonna have to look and see how much it actually is. I haven't, dude. I haven't touched Genshin since it like came out. Cause I remember when it was coming out and like David was like so excited about it and everything. But me, I was just like, I don't know. I don't really gacha games. I played like only one that kind of was just like, I don't know. It was some stupid thing that is only in Japanese, and I don't know. I don't even really play the game. I literally go on there and collect like some stuff, and I'm just like, yeah, I don't really care. But to be honest, like, I think a lot of developers should avoid trying to have their games that big. Though sometimes I understand sizes, sometimes I don't. Like Warzone is just, that map was just like spaghetti coated everywhere. I'm only gonna defend Warzone for one reason, and it's because Verdansk was where it all began for me. So that was a good time. But otherwise, like, yeah, I get it. People are not happy about those sizes. It's not great. It shouldn't be this way. I don't know the best workaround for it right now. But I mean, you could probably see in the future, maybe they're gonna start talking about using AI to optimize all their like graphics stuff. But that's like their textures and stuff and the game model and whatnot. But that's a a risky conversation to have. Again, I don't know exactly how those things are stored, like the map models and things like that. My presumption is that an AI, like, sorry, not AI, but I was gonna say, like, my presumption is that like rasterization, I think, is probably going to load a model, like a model of a map, like, as in like a full object, whereas in the future it could just be a set of pointers that explain how to build that object. I don't know if that's understandable, but like, I think the best way I can put it is like, imagine instead of a model, like just a full model, like like a model of like a hospital building. It's just an explanation of how to build that model of the hospital building, and it's a lot smaller. But I don't know if that's exactly how it's gonna work. I don't know what they'll do in the future. I do think that's a big deal. But I think for graphical fidelity though, like, yeah, it's just, I don't know. We'll have to see. I'm very skeptical though. I don't want to say that I just don't believe Nvidia because I have like an inherent kind of bias against the company. I'm not fully biased. Like, I didn't, like, it's not like Intel where I like said I sworn that I would never buy from Intel again, CPU wise. But I still think like for Nvidia it's more like I chose not to take with them because my 1080 had so many issues back in the day. And I don't know, like, now that I went with the AMD card, it's been pretty good overall. There's a couple issues here and there. Like I don't know why I have like a driver issue. It could also just be my Windows. But anyways, yeah, what the heck? 90
gig, and it's just I just have the English and Japanese downloaded.
Wow, unbelievable.
93.7 gigs.
What the fuck?
What are the map can't even be that big.
I wonder how big the mobile is now.
Yeah, I think the mobile should be smaller if that's the case. Yeah, no, I can't imagine myself getting back into Genshin. I mean, I say getting back, like I literally didn't even play it. Like I think I went from like one thing to like up to like a city or something, and then I just got really tired and bored, and I didn't really want to play it anymore. The funniest thing,
degenerate. I'll play.
I think one of the funniest things is I remember when it came out, and There was someone that I watch pretty commonly. I think it was just Mudaharp playing it, and it was just like he was playing it, and he described, he's like, oh yeah, this is like a pretty good game. Unfortunately, it has like some like what's it called, like the PC version installs like backdoor or whatever, so just get the PlayStation version or whatever. I don't even know if you were able to play
there is a quote unquote anti-cheat.
Well, I mean, anti-cheat in those games is just an don't mess with our store system. I mean, let's not forget the fact that in Call of Duty Warzone, back when people were making hacks for the game, Activision was asleep, like basically barely stopping people from using Warzone hacks. The second someone made a hack that allowed you to, unlock store-bought skins, right?
Do you even remember that?
The second that was made was the second when all of those hacks just disappeared off the market. It is a little bit funny.
Anti-cheat is another good example of, I think, a good use for AI.
Well,
like more AI was implemented for live anti-cheat.
I'm a little mixed. I think there's good uses for kind of the flagging of it. Maybe like the part where the AI flags someone and says, hey, this guy looks like he's moving suspiciously or something, right? But the kind of the arbiter of justice, no. I think that should be still to the people. I think not to the people, sorry, I meant to say to the the moderator of the game, right? Because,
if you left those decisions to the people, everybody would be banned.
I mean, yeah, I think to the people would just ban people they don't like. But I think it's more to like the game wardens of whatever game it is. Like CS:GO, I'm pretty sure has some level of like game wardens and stuff, right?
So they implemented a thing called Back Live, which I guess technically is kind of like an AI, but basically it's supposed to monitor live matches and see, like check things that it views as suspicious. But I don't know if either they heavily neutered it or they disabled it for a bit or something, but it got to the point to where it was working well for a bit, from what I saw at least. And then it just seemed like all that stopped, because I heard something about they were tweaking the process for it to determine the likelihood of a shot, and if it detected what it thought was a cheater, it would cancel the match. But there were a lot of false flags, so I think they heavily neutered it to the point to where it basically didn't work anymore. And since the Overwatch system, which was their peer review system, they technically, I think they said it's back in, but I haven't seen anybody actually be able to use it yet.
I mean, it's just a perpetual arms race, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
When it comes down to it, I think cheating in video games, especially like competitive games, it's an arms race. It's the cheaters get more and more skilled at evading because they make their engines more human-like, and the game wardens, they have to consistently try and find ways without compromising the entire game. At the end of the day, again, there's a reason why I think a lot of game developers like consoles, is because for anti-cheat on consoles, it's a lot easier, isn't it? At least in a general sense, because the console's already locked down. Because, like, that's the thing, is, like, I was about to say, well, they just need a locked-down desktop that only does that game and is the same as every other desktop for everyone to compete against. And I'm like, you know what that is? That's a console. That's what a console is.
That's what my school does for final exam.
Exactly. So
they have a thing called Lockdown Browser, which only allows
yeah, I've used it throughout my schooling. Don't worry. And I think that's kind of like the at the end of the day, that's what some games are trying to get towards. They're like trying to breathe their neck further and further down the consumer's Like they're breathing their neck down the consumer because they're trying to figure out, like, are you cheating? Are you cheating? Or what are you using? What do you have open, right? Like they'll look at different things you have open. They might think that, like, there are some games I think that flag the Discord overlay as a cheat thing, right?
Oh yeah.
And
CS did for a while because it was you had to get approved by Valve or something to have it sign, so it could hook in.
yeah, I don't know, like,
And
I
OBS, I think, as well.
I think this arms race is something that, I mean, China doesn't give a crap. I don't know why I'm giving China crap, because it's not just China. It's a lot of places. But China really doesn't give a crap. That's why they do the whole thing where install a keylogger, you know, have this thing that goes right up to your BIOS, rootkit, right? Almost potentially just a malware system. And that's how it figures out whether or not you're cheating, right?
I will say, to that extent, I really dislike the move people were pushing towards kernel anti-cheat.
Exactly. Which is
I
kind
think
of like...
it was I think I saw a short from Pirate Software, but it described it pretty well, in my opinion. Is kernel anti-cheat to him is like, would you just have a police officer sitting in your home waiting to see if you do something wrong?
Well, yeah, essentially that's correct, and I think that's part of that problem with this arms race is we don't know at what extent, like, how is this going to be handled the best way. There really is no easy answer, right? That's the thing that sucks, is that you've got, on one hand, you've got kernel level anti-cheat, on another hand, you've got, you know, the people who are willing to do incredibly stupid things to screw over their peers, right? So it's, again, I don't have a generalized one answer for this, right? It's the same problem that people have with digitized anything, right? As soon as something becomes digitized, it's like, now that's a point of compromise, right? That's a point where something can get compromised, and there you go, your whole system's down. Like, I wanna tie into there's a country, I'm really not gonna name this country just because it's a little bit controversial, but long story short, there's a country in the world that's using a system where their driver's licenses are done all digitally, right? I heard about this kind of more recently from a podcast I was listening to. I really can't talk about this country, and if you know it, please don't say it, okay? Anyways, long story short, the country has a driver's license system, right? And, you know, the thing is that the people in that country, they basically don't use, like, the pen and paper anymore. They use their software, their built-in app and system and infrastructure. But, you know, my question is, what happens when all that gets compromised, right? And I know that they might have contingencies, but I'm just saying, like, this is kind of the issue with just digitizing everything, right? Even with just digital currencies in general, like, those are all under threat. I think that's the reason why I go backwards in that entire set of ordeals. And honestly, like, when it comes to competitive gaming, like, I don't know, like, on one hand, I do agree that there should be a level of moderation that identifies enough cheaters that helps most people get through their matches. But on the other hand, I think that, you know, when it really comes down to, like, the cutting edge of the competitive scene, right? The pro matches and things like that, it has to just be, just like how I said, a console-like PC with a lockdown browser that lets you play the tournament, right? That's literally the only way to prevent, because, I mean, let's look at it this way, right? Cheaters are always going to exist in a competitive scene. But at the very end of a competitive scene, like, when you get to the final tournament, you can quite literally just decide that, hey, everyone's using the same computer, it's all locked down, so if a cheater's like, I want to use my own computer, well,
Forsaken.
Yeah, exactly, you can't.
Word.exe!
So there's no cheats going to be available to them, and then therefore they'll get ousted. They'll be like, whoa, why did this guy not play as good? So I don't know. I just don't think people can cheat their way to the top in CSGO. I don't think a lot of people have either. I'm pretty sure a lot of cheaters just cheat and then get banned, right? And they're like, oh, that was the fun of it.
Or they work their
Yeah.
way like through the penny cups and stuff,
Yeah.
like the online cups and stuff. There's lots of cases like that.
I'm sure they probably
Like this,
also.
there was a. This goes way back and is really off topic, but it reminded me. There was this one website that I used to play on that it was a 2v2 tournament. Like every week they'd hold a 2v2 tournament,
Yeah.
and it was a small cash prize. It wasn't a lot. I think it was like $100 worth of skins or something. But it got to the point to where everybody on it was cheating because they didn't have an anti-cheater. They were just relying on Val.
Yeah, which is like just the bare minimum. It just doesn't do enough. Yeah,
But
Damn.
along those lines, though, I feel like it would at least be good to see some implementation of AI like that. Like you said, maybe not to be the judge, jury, and executioner, but to flag things. Like some things are. Like I think that's the whole purpose of like kind of implement it like the trust factor system in CS, where if you get reported a bunch, you get low trust factor and you're queued up with people who are low trust factor. Like implementing something like that where if it thinks there's something wrong with you, it flags you and then like puts you in a pool to the side with other people who've been flagged.
I
when
don't
it
know
came to-
why, but I'm starting to think of like some really, really out there and weird ideas. Like one of them I just thought of was, imagine, let's say someone wants to like verify like their skill level or something. So they'll go to like, I don't know why this is such a weird idea, but just bear with me, okay? I know this is not about graphics anymore. It's about computer like cheating in video games and stuff. But like I think this is amazing. So think about it this way. So imagine someone's like, oh yeah, you know, they're getting like called out for cheating even though they're just a really good player, right? And like all the AI systems are like, you know, maybe red flagging them, and players are maybe the Overwatch system, the players are skeptical and whatnot. So what they decide to do is, let's just say Valve decides to make a bunch of like like controlled gaming cafes or booths or something, whatever, right? Like a place where they have a set of computers that are under Valve's like jurisdiction, right? And you cannot tamper with them. You can only go to play competitive games with them, right? And they're locked down, they're watched, they're surveilled, right? And you go to them specifically just to show, you know, where your skill level's at, right? So they're like verification booths. I don't know how else to put it, but imagine they play at those, and you know they end up playing a couple matches to determine what skill level they're in, right? Again, there's so many variables why this wouldn't work, but I'm just saying this is like a funny way that maybe could actually get someone to verify their skill level to whatever they have at home, right? And then let's say that all things pass and they pass it like their skill level is exactly the same and or better, right, than at home. Then they're able to continue on. Now again, there are some anomalies where that wouldn't work. Like number one, if someone is just as good as their hacks, right? Like someone's really good and then they use hacks just to like, you know, sit back and relax, right? Like that's gonna be another problem in that case. I don't know though. It's a really stupid idea. I know Valve would never. That's like such an extremely high budget, and the fact that people would go to do something like that sounds ridiculous. But I do think that if the people are trying to become pros, right? I think there's a realistic level of something like that could exist. Like pros that just want, you know, like an exam, right? Yeah,
That's basically. Have you heard of Face It or ESEA?
I've heard of Face It, yes.
Yeah, but that actually kind of it proves your point. For example, I think the highest I was in Premiere was like 20,000, and I like you said, I used to get called out a lot. I've kind of fallen into a slump recently, and I'm not as good. But I moved to Face It with a friend, and my performance just plummeted. To be fair, also people tend to take it a lot more seriously. So I'm only like around level 7 on Face It, and so it's like most of the pros would be high level pin, if not the top of it,
Yeah.
which is the highest level.
Yeah, I definitely.
But like that's gonna.
I definitely think that it's similar to what I was talking about. Just that I think the next level of that would be like basically an exam. Like that's what it is, a CS:GO exam. Like someone's going in to like an examination room to play CS:GO to see if they're like actually a real like pro level player or they were just using cheats at home. Again, I think it's a funny idea. I think that it might help them in terms of determining real pros. It's probably not going to be as vast in that case. It's probably just going to be like, oh, they have a couple testing areas and like, I don't know, one in the West US, one in the East, one Central, and like one in Canada or something, right? Like not
I mean,
very
most
many.
people also consider those LAN, like in-person tournaments.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, I don't really know how else they would be able to do that. Again, the closed down system is like the only way to like ensure there's no cheating. Period. Unless you're using keyloggers and backdoors and stuff, but that still doesn't help you because those can still be evaded in a lot of different ways. There, one of the ways that they can be evaded, which isn't new. It's nothing new. It's just something that people have been doing since the beginning of time, but it hasn't been good until like now. Is when they've got like those robots that literally hold like the mouse with their hand and click and look at the screen. Oh, dude, I think those are hilarious. I'm not gonna lie. That's like the only type of cheating in a video game which I can't even be mad about. I think that's like actually insane. I just hope they stay out of like competitive scenes. If they want to do that like a fun, like random casual or practice or whatever, I don't care. But if they do that in the competitive scene, it's still cheating. it's just a very roundabout way of getting there. That's for sure. So yeah, I'm sorry. We got way off topic, but that's okay. That's okay. We definitely were thinking about AI the whole time. I think AI was like the main thing that brought us to this topic of like cheating in video games. But yeah. So next thing is.
I was gonna say, to throw one last point in, you could also take it the opposite direction, using AI to cheat.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's like going to be another problem is that whatever weapon we use against is going to be used against us. So they're going to now use AI to get away from the cheating. They're going to try and use AI to humanize their movements and fake like I think at this point there are probably people online who are entirely just AI models. They probably aren't as active. They're probably not as
Neurosama.
Well, neurons like is controlled. That's controlled though. Like I'm talking about like people who could literally have like they're not actual people, but they could join a Discord. They could start talking to you, and as if they're a real person, answer.
Isn't that
you.
what Facebook is planning to do?
Well, that's kind of what Facebook's already kind of looking at that. But just imagine that they're full, like they could be full AIs that just do this, where they act like people. They go and join, and then they like this is stuff that would have been schizo speak like 5 years ago, but now it's like real. Now it's like
dude, the dead internet theory is being speed ran right now, dude.
It's gonna be so much worse than dead internet. Like it's gonna be like they're gonna join, they're gonna talk, they're gonna be all talking. Sometimes like again, right now they're probably gonna be talking gibberish, but like imagine in like 5 years of AI development, they could probably like come back and they could join our podcast or something. It could be that crazy, right? We could
honestly don't even think it would take that long with how fast it's progressed.
It would be insane because they could develop like their own personality. They could play different games with us. I think it's weird, but I don't know. It's such a weird uncanny valley thing. Like on one hand, we've had lots of stories and games and things that have romanticized this kind of future. Like they've like like for example. In Mass Effect, you've got like this robot called Legion, that's a really cool one I thought of. But at the same time,
Detroit.
Yeah, there's Detroit Become Human, right? I haven't really watched through that series, but I think in general, like it's it's a lot of like, I'm not so sure about these things. I have to. I mean, the full extent of it's kind of scary. Like, especially there was like this one thing I kept seeing about where it was like a bunch of AI players playing Minecraft and making their own civilization, which is just like, holy crap, dude. I don't know. I don't want to be involved with this anymore. Like, leave us alone. We might have to, honestly, like, you know what? I'm gonna put it this way. If it really gets that far, yeah, we're looking at situations where the internet might have to get like basically like split off or postponed or something. I don't know why.
So you're proposing racist segregation of AI, are you?
Yes.
I have no clue how it's gonna be handled. I have no clue. I literally have no idea. Like, I think that already there's people who are putting like people who are using AI into boxes. Like, I know that some people consider even like the models of VTubers as like AI, right? Because they use AI for tracking or whatever, right?
I feel like that's a different level AI, or like a different kind of AI. But that's the
Well,
thing.
yeah, exactly. And but I mean, like this is like kind of the point where, you know, now you've got some more like lower, as you guys said, neural, like just an AI, just that's just like a very low level AI that some dude made to like talk, right? But I don't know, like future, it's gonna be a lot different. Like I think it's gonna be like almost
Well, that
indistinguishable.
Minecraft thing you mentioned,
Yeah.
Neuro's currently doing a subathon. Well, they're playing Civ 6 right now, but previously they were doing a Minecraft server where the AI was playing Minecraft.
Well, one AI is whatever. It's more just the issue of like multiple AIs, and now you've got a sea of AIs and like one person who's like, huh, what's going on? And you know, the moment where that one person cannot tell who's real and who's AI, like that's the really scary part, right? Again, I don't know how things will work. Like it depends how much AI can make up about itself as a person or as a, you know, like I don't know. We will have to see. There's a lot to it. Anyway, I know I'm gonna have to leave down a cliffhanger day. I have one because there's just we just don't know. Like it's just so out there and so much that hasn't been released. Like, who knows? Like maybe in a couple years time, we might be like, wow, this has been a huge mistake, and this is gonna cause so much more trouble. Or maybe in a couple years we'll be like, wow, this was a nothing burger and nothing really came out of it, and you know, we just got basically just another iteration of you know, like we just got another iteration of like voice activated whatever, you know, like the stuff that we use for turning on and off our lights with smart technology and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like
Quick, cover your back. Praise Skynet.
Yeah, so
Dude, I always think my Google Assistant. You don't understand.
honestly, Alex Senior, he should take his Alexa and just microwave it, because at this point, like it generated a song about Ryan's slop when it was not told about Ryan and or the fact that he consumes slop foods. So I think Alex should like microwave his Alexa, 100%.
Fucking John Amazon and what he wants his company to do.
Yeah. Anyway, I think that's enough AI for me.
Yeah, I'm
Alright. So let me look at the next points here. So who the hell is Alan Wake? No one cares. Admittedly, energy efficiency, yeah. Again, I think out of the Nvidia thing, energy efficiency is going to be the thing that they're definitely going to have a lot of wins across the board for. I think that's what, you know, that DLSS is really going to be a big deal about, is the energy efficiency part. I will give them that point no matter what, just because energy efficiency for these devices are usually a good thing overall. When you're on
one
a
thing
laptop,
I do want to wait to see come out is Gamers Nexus was talking about how the 5090 is approaching the limit of 12 volt high power and concerns that might bring
already?
that he's going to test.
That's crazy.
Concerns that what, sorry?
It's something like the 5090 pulls like 575 watts or something,
Holy
which is nearing the limit
crap.
of 12-volt high power.
Oh my
Dude.
god, dude. Nvidia is really, really...
Which already was a fire hazard for a bit, so he's wanting to test that and see.
Oh, I really hope to see that video because I'm so concerned about this sort of stuff. Like, I don't know, Nvidia is really, really pushing their limits on here, and this is not, like, again, I'm just cautiously optimistic. I hope everything works out. Again, you know what? Like, as much as I like to talk a lot of smack about Nvidia and I'm really critical, I just hope everything does work out at the end, that, you know, the performance is really there. But I'm still going to be skeptical of the terms that I think that, you know, that performance equivalence that they made is probably just going to be better for, like, lower end and laptop GPUs and stuff. Whereas in, like, the high end stuff...
That is a
really
good point. Sorry, this is back to AI again, but talking about the AI ability of the cards, I feel like that works better the lower down on the spec you get.
Well, essentially,
But
that's
the number of AI cores increases as you go up, so it's like the ones that could make the most of it for like the average person don't have as much capability.
Essentially why I'm also just like, I gotta wait for all this stuff to come out. But ultimately, I definitely stand my ground on it should not be it should not be the focus for Nvidia to make everything under AI for like their rendering. I definitely will stand by that until I see. Sorry, go on.
I said they're gonna put like all their eggs in one basket. They're gonna bank on AI being the next big thing, and then if it doesn't actually
the RTX
end up
all
being,
over.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyways.
So, moving on. So, again, we talked about enough AI, so I'm not going to talk about their AI agent system. That was just, you know, again, more AI stuff. Self-driving trucks, again, more AI stuff. I'm not going to talk about self-driving tech on this because just I don't really have much on it right now. The full AI supercomputer, Project Digits, again, more AI slop. I'm done. No more AI. Okay, let's continue on. AMD CES 2025 keynote. They didn't have very much. It was very disappointing that they didn't show off any of their graphics cards, but ultimately,
You know what's funny?
I'm just gonna let them cook because at this point, you know, I know AMD's not gonna catch up to the ray tracing performance of the Nvidia cards, but I am curious about the rasterization performance, and we can't compare DLSS 4 performance to rasterization, but we can compare FSR with DLSS, and I do think some people are seeing that FSR has been doing some incredibly good gains on a lot of different games. So it's something that I think over time we might be able to actually see a little bit more about. But again, they didn't announce anything for FSR this time around yet. I think they had FSR 3. I don't remember, but that was like not at this CES. I'm pretty sure. They had the Ryzen 9 9950X3D, which is an 8% improvement over the 7950X3D, which is my current CPU. And 8% is not really enough for me to pick up a new CPU. I personally don't think there's any reason. Like, this CPU is already like overkill for most of the games I'm playing. But I mean, I'm curious to know how well it ends up doing for them for having that improvement. Ultimately, they are stomping the crap out of Intel in terms of CPUs. So
I will say, I think I mentioned this on the last episode I was in, that now AMD kind of has Intel's issue, where Intel was just kind of putting out stuff each year, and then now with it might just be that they haven't had something, a big breakthrough or anything, but now if this continues where it's like, okay, at least there's a little bit of an improvement, but then it would be concerning if it goes the way of phones, where it's like, oh, we just put something new out each year, even if there's not a huge or
exactly.
even really meaningful
exactly
uplift.
Yeah, I don't know, like I do think CPU wise, like, there's a better concern over that, but it's not as big as like Radeon which Radeon was just nowhere to be seen through that CES keynote. So, I mean, yeah, again, as I said, I want to let Radeon cook. I want to let them figure out what they actually want to do. At the end of the day, what would help the Radeon Technologies group the most is they come out with all their stuff, all their hand in front of like the cards they've been displayed, and they play them properly, as in they put out prices that compete at each performance level, right?
That will be
And-
something
Yeah.
interesting to see because I think you said we'll get to it later, but so AMD is gonna abandon the upper end. But it also seems like Nvidia is abandoning the lower end for now. So it's like AMD can fit in right there, but now with Intel, their uplift, like okay, now they have to also punch below.
Yeah, that's the thing is AMD has always been fighting a war on two fronts, but it's kind of almost like they're fighting a war on three fronts at this point. Because Intel's coming forward in the low end CPU or GPU market, and it's like I don't know. I really don't know if Intel will be able to really beat them like dry. I think that when it comes to like ray tracing, I think Intel is starting to get ahead of them. That's what I heard. I don't know how true that is, but I've heard some things about Intel doing better in ray tracing at the lower end. But that's also a weird thing, because like when we say ray tracing at the lower end, it's kind of like I don't know how to put it, but ray tracing at the lower end is like a really rare thing, I think. I don't think most people get a lower end card to do ray tracing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of just there to be like, hey, I can do it. Maybe not necessarily well, but
Like realistically, whenever people tell me they've got ray tracing for a low end card, it's like, so what? You can like take some nice screenshots and then like switch back your settings. Like I'm just being realistic. Like that's kind of what I would
I mean,
do.
yeah.
Right? I'm not trying to be an asshole saying that. I'm just saying like it's not really like something you could use to like play full games if your game's running very, very slowly with ray tracing. You're just gonna use it to kind of like take pictures and stuff and be like, wow, this is cool.
Guys, my game looks pretty. I don't know. I guess for fact though, it's like pushing the baseline of like computing in terms of like graphics cards. So there's that.
Yeah, I
but-
agree with that for sure.
What's the point of pushing computing if like the software isn't there yet?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess what I'll say right now is AMD did come out with a couple other things other than their CPU. So they're bringing X3D to their mobile devices. They're calling it Fire Range, which kind of sounds hilarious. Like like a range that's like a stove range that's caught on fire. Like I don't know, it just sounds kind of funny.
of course my American mind went to like a shooting range.
Yeah. That fire
God,
name
bro.
is kind of funny, but I'll be honest, that's a really good thing because I want to see more of that excellence come to mobile, because it's a good idea to have that technology go everywhere that it needs to go. I just hope it doesn't run that badly. Again, naming it Fire Range makes me think it's gonna run like an i9 in a MacBook, but then again, I mean that was like an epic disaster. I don't know if you guys remember that, but there was i9s and MacBooks that were running so hot that they would just underclock all the time, and they would run like shit. There was just no other way around it. But yeah, that's just kind of like what's there. Again, Ryzen AI 300. Again, it's an AI thing. I'm just not going to talk about AI.
It's we already know.
Yeah. And AMD and Dell are having a collab. I think that's good. Again, Dell hasn't worked with AMD for a while. They've been kind of, wrestled with it. Like basically, Intel had them in a headlock for a long time, and I think that after a long time of Intel just getting shooting themselves in the foot over and over again, they've kind of tripped over, and Dell has kind of come free, and now they're like, oh well, now we're gonna have Ryzen CPUs with business laptops and stuff. But I think really,
Okay, good. I was gonna say, if it's Alienware, then I'm not too excited.
yeah, Alienware.
Alienware, let's
Business, then yeah,
go.
that could be.
Yeah, Alienware. I don't know. Like, actually, I was gonna say, what? Wait, why are you not too excited for Alienware?
Just all the
Overpriced?
proprietary stuff they use,
True, true.
and the typically poor design and layout and configuration of them.
Man, their marketing was insane. When I was a kid, I wanted nothing but an Alienware. I was like, when I become an adult, I'm gonna go and I'm just gonna buy myself an Alienware. I'm gonna get $5,000 and buy myself an Alienware with an i7 Extreme. That was what it was back in the day. There's no i9.
Oh my
i7
god, it used to be extreme. Oh.
Yeah, it was crazy. But as I grew older, I was like, well, you know what? Actually, I don't really know if I have any interest in Alienware anymore. And as the design changed, I didn't really like their new designs as much. I loved their old bulky Christmas lights designs. Those were sick. But like I have my buddy Tyler's old laptop. It's an Alienware. Like it's exactly one of the models that I wanted, right, as a kid. And I look at that and I'm like, wow, it's like so bulky, and I still love the aesthetic of it, but I never would want one anymore in the same way. Like as in I wouldn't crash out for it. But anyway, like,
Okay, I will input. I don't know. I haven't had much experience with Alienware laptops. I was probably more specifically desktops.
yeah. Okay, so anyway, I think that for really the overall thing, yeah, I hope their collab goes somewhere. I understand Alienware is probably not as well liked. I know there's an Alienware monitor that people really liked that came out more recently, because it was like an OLED monitor with like some really nice details on it, right? But again, I just hope everything works out. I can't really say for certain that this Dell collab will be like some next level AMD like Alienware laptop that's like, you know, out of this world, so to speak, out of this world. But you know what? Like we'll let them cook. I think personally that the whole AMD CES keynote is, the moral of the story is, yeah, people are pissed. But I also think people just like, I don't know, maybe it's just me. I'm already at kind of like the bleeding edge of most of AMD's hardware anyways. So I maybe not the right person to speak on this, but I definitely think like people need to wait and let them cook, because you know when people are jumping the gun on AMD for, you know, the original Ryzen releases, right? The first two Ryzens, people are like, oh, but like it can't beat Intel at single core performance, and that was like the whole thing, was that it couldn't beat Intel. It was just so close. It was so close, so close, and people were, you know, dogging on AMD for not getting to it. And then the moment that the 3900X came out was the moment where I knew Intel was cooked. And ever since then, it's been 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, 6,000, 7,000, and in the 8,000, 9,000. Now I'm saying ones that don't even exist, but the point is they've been cooked every step of the way. Like Intel gets one up here and there, and then gets cooked.
Isn't there an 8700X?
I'm not sure, honestly. I think there's a couple that are mobile and a couple that are that don't exist.
Yeah, their naming scheme's been getting kind of wonky these last couple years.
Kind of bad. I mean, it's not like Intel's one's any better, because Intel literally, like, I don't even know what, like, their naming schemes.
You want to talk about poor naming? Dell's right there.
Exactly. Oh god, Dell has some of the worst.
Yeah, when I think of bad naming, I think of like Dell and Sony.
Oh yeah, Sony's really bad at naming. Monitor names are like made just to confuse people more. I think that's definitely a fact.
You know, like a Sony Bravia XR 7001 whatever fuck.
Dude, I can't tell you the name of my own fucking monitors. That's the thing. monitor namings are some of the worst, period. Like, honestly, whoever names monitors, I hope somehow this gets to them. I know we're not that big of a podcast or anything, but I really hope one day that our podcast gets to them so they can understand that their monitor namings are so bad that, like, how am I supposed to tell someone what my monitor is? I can't just, like, there's so many 20 to 32 inch Dell monitors, right? Like, I want them to come up with a system that just better describes it. Like, I don't know. There's really any other way, right? The kind of way that they do it right now is just so confusing. And the average consumer...
I mean, I'm sure the numbers describe it pretty well. Just nobody knows what those numbers mean.
Yeah, the naming sequence is just it's not legible by your average person. That's what it is. Excuse me. Yeah. So I think for AMD though, anything else you guys want to say about AMD or
Shit. I mean, I don't know. I feel like AMD's kind of is starting to suffer from like a burnout, like how you were saying earlier, like Intel.
Yeah, I think when it comes to like the CPUs, I think they're definitely like at a point where you can't really like go any higher. I mean, they're kind of where Nvidia is with their GPUs, where the AMD CPUs are, but they're not making those like ridiculous claims like Nvidia is making, because an 8% CPU performance is not the same claim as our highest end GPU last year is equatable to our lowest end releasing one this year. So I don't know. Then again, it remains to be seen, right? Ultimately, we might hear about, and again, I'm gonna add one more thing in this entire keynote thing about Nvidia and AMD is that AMD still hasn't released their cards out yet because they're probably waiting until maybe Nvidia starts talking about their lower end, because I know Nvidia's lower end is gonna get cooked. Like, it's gonna absolutely get cooked. We are not gonna see the 5060 and the 5050. I saw leaks about it that don't look good at all. Especially ones talking about, what was it, 8 gigs of VRAM. Like, no, that is, it's gonna get cooked. I know 8 gigs is not bad. It's just for like current day, it's like you're gonna be competing against cards that are nearly 3 generations old that have 8 gigs of VRAM, and they're gonna get outclassed. So that's the reason why I have that to say. So yeah, we kind of roughly talked about the Intel lineup, but Intel's low-end series has been making some really big hits against Nvidia and AMD in the GPU market. I think the Arc battlemage has given really good performance first price rate. I think Intel is completely right about a lot of these. Yeah, per dollar, like they really put it out there. It's a per dollar. It's a good card for a lot of these people. Like, people are starting to realize that they're seeing the Intel cards. They're looking at the Nvidia card. They're seeing $550, and they're like, hell no, we don't have $550. They're looking at an AMD card. They're seeing, I don't know, $400 something. They're like, hell no, we don't have 400 whatever dollars. They look at an Intel card and they're seeing what, like maybe 300, I think, last I remember. I'm not sure. Like, I don't think people are able to argue against that. They're like, well, the drivers are fine now, and the card really is starting to perform usefully. Yeah, like 370 Canadian dollars. So that's even cheaper for US dollar, right? What's that for you guys? Like 280? So we're looking at like sub $300 cards that are catching up. Arc B50 B580.
370 is 256.5 USD.
So 200 what?
256.51.
Holy shit, dude. Oh man, our currency is so fucked. Anyway, point is, yeah, it's a remarkable.
And I also have
performance.
a seemingly controversial opinion at least. I really like the look of the cards.
Art cards.
Yeah.
I don't think that's that controversial. I don't think they look that bad. They're clean. It is a little funny that it's Intel that's making cards. I mean, it's still we live in the timeline now where Intel is just making cards. I just think that's a funny timeline. Because I mean, it's funny. Like my work computer it has an Intel card in it as well. It also has like a what's it i7 in it as well, I believe. Yeah, it's a Core Ultra 7. That's what they call it. They don't even say i7 anymore. Core Ultra 7. Like they've really changed their whole naming sequence. Yeah, I've been told the drivers are doing well. So if you're one of those people who are looking at Nvidia's price of 549 saying that's ridiculous, looking at AMD's prices and saying they're not going to work out at 400 whatever, right? Maybe Intel Arc is your calling, right? And look, one thing, as much as I don't like Intel as a company and I have kind of refused to buy from them, I could say that if you're someone who's trying to get into PC gaming, I will never shame you for getting an Arc GPU. I think that in the beginning I might have said that because I was skeptical of Intel's performance because they started off and they were just hitting again, Intel started off basically hitting every single rake on the ground, as I can say, but I think over time they realized where everything is and they started to now pick up their footing, and now you've got Nvidia basically saying, oh shit, what are we going to do at this price rate? We can't just keep releasing these cards that are just underperforming at every capacity. So yeah, it's definitely one of those things that I think is going to be significant as time goes on. Do you guys have anything else to say about Intel?
I hope they keep it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like they traded their CPU division for GPU, and I'm like, you know what? I could fight with this.
I mean, at the end of the day, if they start making more competition in this GPU market that's relevant, it might kick AMD, give them a wake up call to start fighting back, especially for lower end, and the low mid end could potentially be taken back. I still think that AMD needs to beat Nvidia at every turn of the way, but it's hard to, just because again RTX is such a marketing, like it's just a marketing Nvidia is top of the class of their marketing when it came to RTX. That's what I'm trying to say.
Here's what AMD needs to do.
Yeah.
Bring back the RX 400 500, call it the RDX, and then put some make it RDNA.
Yeah. I really want everyone to win at the end of the day. I think the most competition is the best. If we get a day when we see all three of them perform relatively similar at every price point, and we could just have different builds for different people for different use cases, that would be really the best. Ultimately, right now, it's if you're lower end, you're probably gonna go for something Intel GPU. If you're mid grade, I would say AMD pretty much wins almost throughout the middle if you're not looking for RTX performance. But if you're looking for RTX, then Nvidia is pretty much your calling all the way up to the high end and the extremely high end. But I would say for the extremely high end for Nvidia, just wait a little bit, especially for the cards that are currently coming out. Hold on to your wallets. I would say wait until you see some reviews, especially with all this AI stuff going around. I think it's best that you wait and see what that AI performance really translates to, because at the end of the day, Nvidia might just be holding up a facade of a huge performance increase, when in reality it's just a subtly moderate increase with a lot of AI sprinkled in there to make it look like it's way bigger than it seems. But that's just my opinion. And it could very much, I could very much be wrong, and Nvidia's just completely so up there in the scale that it's like, it's the end for, you know, Radeon Group. I don't think it's the end for Radeon Group. I think people who think it's the end for Radeon Group have sorely mistaken what the you know, the landscape really looks like. I think that they're looking at it from like a very much a cartoonish, like a fantasized landscape where like people just see Nvidia as like the, you know, the kind of liberator of all graphics worldwide, and like that would be the end all. I just don't think that's how it's looking like. I think it's like, you know, people are gonna see that, oh well, there's some weird discrepancies, and then AMD's gonna come out with their announcement, and people are gonna be like, oh, look at those prices, and then heads are gonna turn as soon as prices get dropped. That's really what I think. I think people don't know yet. And again, I could be completely wrong. The market share will never change in that regard, maybe, but whatever, it's fine. I think that the most competition is the best. I hope that things just become as competitive as possible, and at the end of the day, the consumers win from it. Anything else you guys want to add to Intel, AMD, Nvidia, any of those?
I just want to honestly, the most I can say is I'm, I guess, excited or skeptical of what's gonna happen in the next few years for the GPU market.
Yeah.
All I can really think of, it's like, I hope it goes well. I hope AMD like steps up, because as of the last, like, who knows how many years, at least 5 I want to say, AMD's been like, all right, let's see what Nvidia does. Whatever they do, we'll just undercut them, or try to undercut them at least. That's pretty much what they've been doing. Right.
Okay. So the next topic and the last topic we're going to talk about is something that happened a couple months ago, I think, at this point. Was it a couple months ago? Was it like 1 or something? I think it was a couple months ago. Was when NZXT came out with a gaming rental PC program. I just completely butchered that, but a PC rental program, a gaming PC rental program.
Dude, that shit.
Gamers Nexus did a amazing video. Honestly, like, again, Steve has been doing so much better on his videos now. It's crazy. Like, he went from being known as kind of like the boring, nerdy, gaming tech gaming channel where you just watched his videos for like the details and the numbers and stuff, and now he's become like an investigative journalist in the tech sphere, and he's really taking tech nerd journalism from like you know, kind of like the, oh, here's this new thing, and, you know, just being all super excited and whatnot, to like, here's a company that you might have had some respect for, but here's what they've been doing behind the scenes, and also screwing everyone over. Because they did that with the EK WaterBlocks thing, which I wanted to talk about at one point, but it's got a little bit, you know, stale. It was from a while ago. But I think that the NZXT scam is still kind of fresh off the plate. I think it's still around. Is it still around? Epic, did you check it out?
EK, I think they're in the process of being the word dismantled is not what I'm looking for, but sure, why not?
The rental system is still up. Sorry, that's what I was trying to look at. Yeah, the rental system.
Rental system?
Yeah,
it's still
NZXT,
around, yeah.
It's still up.
I thought you said EK for a second.
Well, I did talk about EK earlier, but I was saying like the EK one is kind of a case that's being handled, and it was already talked about like months ago, so I just didn't know if there was really any major update on that.
But
we
EK,
didn't get a chance to talk about it all the time. Yeah, so actually, if you want to explain kind of what it is, I'm just gonna take a drink. Sorry.
So basically what ends up happening with the EK entire debacle is EK WaterBlocks was, first of all, they were not paying their employees at all. They were also avoiding taxes like crazy. They're not only that, but they're the CEO of EK and founder of EK, Edward Kunvik, I think it is. He had a bunch of like friends, I want to say, he would pay to pretty much do nothing, and these guys would have like their own internal. It's a very big web, but they have like their own internal companies or whatever, pretty much like doing nothing, and then it would screw over their partners as well. That was another big thing. They there's a chain of computer stores in the U.S. called Micro Center.
Mm-hmm.
Micro Center ordered some water blocks from them. But EK is just like, all right, well, let's the EK went a step further than what Micro Center wanted, and what is it? My EK just built like whole new systems basically for Micro Center's like, Microsoft's like, no, we didn't want that, we didn't order that. So not only that, the EK just has a they just have a tendency to just spend money where they don't need to spend money, and it's costing them a lot. They're literally like struggling to like pay their. It's so sad and depressing.
Yeah, it was like kind of an epic meltdown, and it was crazy because like they were very well respected for a long time. I think like a lot of people would say like EK WaterBlocks was like one of the most respected water cooling companies at its time, and people would always recommend them and say like they're some of the best. But then I think what happened is as they kind of went up the corporate chain, things started to kind of things started to kind of like fall apart, and as they got more and more greedy for more profit, they just kind of like I think what it is the greed overtook them. Like they just couldn't see that passionate vision that they used to have when they started, because I was told the very beginning they used to be very much all about this passionate cooling company. They would talk about all the little things that they do to try and optimize their performance and the cooling and things like that, and now it's turned into a really embarrassing kind of disastrous drop. So yeah, sadly I don't have very much to say on that topic. I just wanted to kind of put that as a footnote, because the main topic for today is the NZXT issue, right? But yeah, I just wanted to quickly mention that EK one for sure. So basically I'm gonna kind of summarize a little bit of an article that I'm looking at, and also just from Gamers Nexus video. So the NZXT program was like a program where you could rent a gaming computer, but there were things that you weren't allowed to change it. You didn't really own the computer, and the whole idea was that you'd pay like small subscription fees, but you'd never be able to own the machine. So really, it was a really messed up rental scheme.
Yeah, it was effectively a scam, because there's Steve of Gamer Nexus, right? The guy who made the big video about it.
Yeah.
He found out it was cheaper to get one of those like mafia-backed like loans programs than to actually rent a PC straight from the NZXT.
I mean, yeah,
That's
it was worse than, like, criminal organizations had better deals than some of the scams at NZXT. It's so messed up that like the documents that actually explained everything about it was just super messed up. Like, yeah, and the interest rates that you pay, and yeah, like more than double the value of the PC. It's so insane, honestly.
I will say, if we just throw out all the scam stuff first, I would like to point out that because of the way they priced it, It was just a stupid model in the first place.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And like there were a lot of social media marketers that were like, oh well, you could get one of these PCs and then win a Fortnite tournament, enough money to buy your own PC. It's like, no, I just don't think that's even remotely possible. The average Fortnite tournament wouldn't even win you like $100. That's like a really good Fortnite tournament for like a starter to run into. It's just super unlikely. But yeah, like I just think like it's just embarrassing because NZXT was a company that was well respected for a long time. It has some of the best parts.
Oh my god.
Like I saw the motherboard that NZXT came out with had to be the cleanest motherboard I'd ever seen. Like
Oh god, it was. It was.
I saw that white motherboard and I was like, wow, it's so clean. It is the like, you look at other motherboards, they've got like all sorts of different things that they do to it. They all look like your average motherboard, a little tacky here and there. But then the NZXT's one, no, that was just smooth. So it's really embarrassing. A company that was well respected has taken these kind of leaps of faith. I mean, I know we talked about a company that did this in an earlier podcast episode when we talked about Ubisoft and its fall, right? And that's still continuing. But anyway, I don't want to go off topic. Just to add on, like, yeah, there's NZXT is one of those companies where it was definitely well respected. It had a lot of good parts, and then they go off and pull something like this, which is just super embarrassing. It shows that there's two ways to it. Either they maliciously maliciously priced this for a scam, or they had next to they were so naive about the whole subscription system that they just didn't realize how much it was going to cost the consumer. But I don't think that's true because they know how much it's going to cost the consumer. There's no way they wouldn't. And then their website also like changing out details and lowering down specs of stuff that people actually get.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, it's just it's not good.
Yeah.
Anything
I remember when I wanted an NZXT case because I thought, well, they were at the time like the best cases, like looking cases in the market at the time,
yeah.
and it's like quality was there, and it's like cool. These guys are great. They're gonna go now. Like it just like scum words.
Yeah.
I mean, I think an alternative to NZXT is Lee and Lee. They've been like stepping up their game for like these last few years.
Lee and Lee has like jumped to the top of the case.
Remember when they were just like a cheap company, right? Coming out of like
Taiwan.
I think it was Taiwan, yeah. It's always the Taiwanese companies too. Like they like start off pretty trash, but like they end up just being some of the best in the market.
Yeah, I mean the craziest thing about Lee and Lee is like the naming even was just like I don't know, like people would see it and they'd think, oh, it's probably like some some low end fake product kind of company, right? Like man, if you just look up RAM companies, you always see them. Like you never heard of those companies in your life, kind of companies. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, Leon Lee starts making these cases, and they're clean, and it's just like, oh wow, these are so nice. And I didn't really know what to think of it until I actually saw my friend David's case in person. I was like so impressed. Like when I saw David's case, I was so impressed that I went out and my secondary computer just had to get a Lee and Lee case for it, and it looks so nice in it.
They're just so good.
Yeah, I don't regret one bit of it. I think there are some parts about it that's a little bit weird. Like I remember, just to get the case in a specific way, like my computer's technically oriented upside down, but Like I figured out the directions the fans have to go. Also, like they have the fans that like the most cutting edge fans that I've seen. Even Corsair hasn't even gone this far, but fans that have like images in them, like you could put up like screens with whatever images, animations or whatever on them. It's just crazy. But yeah, like Lee is really where you want to be looking at right now if you're like not wanting to support NZXT because of the scam. Um, I don't know that I could say that like that you shouldn't straight up support NZXT at all. I just think that I wouldn't personally. Uh, uh, I also would heavily recommend against going for NZXT's rental plan. I think that it's completely a scam. I think that you should save up your money and look at other options. Right now, you know what my main go to is? I would say Steam Deck. I would say save up your coins and you can get around like Steam Decks nowadays are going for like almost $300 used, right? Even cheaper depending on who you get to, who you ask, right? Again, it's not as easy, but at least at that point you could have something that's got performance as good or even better than a lot of consoles, and still be able to carry it around everywhere you go, plug it in, have a whole controller. You don't have to buy, and if you want to turn it into a computer, it's not that much more work. You just plug in a docking station, which sometimes you can get them for pretty cheap, and you can just plug in a mouse and keyboard and speakers or headphones, right? And there you go. You've got a full setup just with the Steam Deck, right? So that's why I think that whole what's it called? Um, like when it comes to like just low end gaming nowadays, it's really becoming more manageable with other options than just building outright a computer with the lowest spec, cheapest parts. You still can, and you might still be able to build something that's pretty decent, or if you want to go ahead and run your own scrapyard wars, you can do that too, right?
Yo, scrapyard words.
Yeah, I really hope one day our group becomes big enough that we could try and do a scrapyard wars ourselves. I would totally do it. I'm so down for it.
G4 tech subs, please, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, I really wanted to start a tech channel. I mean, like our podcast is the closest thing we can get for it, but like the only reason why I can't do a tech channel is because like well, I wanted to do one with Brock because my other buddies are not really as like enthusiastic about doing tech stuff. Brock really is. So Brock was like someone who would have done it, but he has a lot of like he takes a lot of overtime for his work, and he has next to no time. So I think I had to call it off, and I pretty much told him like, hey, it's not gonna work, but it's just be there, and you're not available like most of the time, so we can't even like get any time for us to sit down and film videos and stuff. I really wish I could, but it's me doing it alone just doesn't work. I just don't think I have the ability to be able to like proofread my own kind of scripts and things like that. Yeah.
According to Nvidia, you could just probably slap it into an AI and it'll probably fix it for you.
They want me to use an AI agent. Man. It's crazy because like I'm just thinking about that. I'm just like, man, like are we gonna start seeing like we already got like Neuro, where it's just one guy hanging out with an AI character. I'm just like, is this what's gonna happen in the future? Is just gonna have like an AI like co-host, So it's like I also have an AI co-host I'm just talking to, and it's just like literally an AI that's just discussing with me about this technology. Like, I don't know how that's gonna work. That would be kind of funny, but I wouldn't do that just because of one reason. Is because, first of all, I don't know how to build an AI. I wouldn't want to use one that's already built because I don't think that it would be. I think there's some ethical concerns over that. Realistically, I think just like using one of those is, not actually working on anything for a co-host. But I think that for just kind of bouncing ideas off of AI is okay, as long as you're just brainstorming and not, copy pasting whole scripts. That's something I wouldn't do, is like have the AI write a whole script for me. Like that, I think is wrong. Especially because one of the things, like, there's a reason why people go online. They're like, oh, this guy looks like he writes out of ChatGPT, and it's like, oh, they do, because people do that. And now it's like, now some people are starting to get a hold of that. They're, stopping doing that. They're trying to humanize themselves. So I think that's a lot better. Um, but yeah, I think at the end of the day, gaming for the budget community has definitely improved a lot. I think that, there's a lot of console people thinking that it was gonna collapse because of the mining market, the Bitcoin mining market and whatnot. So there was a lot of console people saying, "Oh, well, there's no GPUs, so you should just come buy a console and play with us." Um, which then, uh, the PC gamers just said, "No, we're not gonna buy a console, because if you buy a console, you have to buy, well, sometimes, actually, I think most consoles come with a controller, but you have to buy the games for them, which, I mean, if you're a PlayStation gamer, there's no games.
One game. I don't know why.
And then on top of that, you have to buy the PS Plus or Xbox Live, and then you have to, I think, buy, like, I don't know, you have to buy a whole bunch of other things if you want, like storage, you have to buy more of it, things like that. Like, yeah, I do not, I cannot, in good faith, recommend using a console in current day, especially like PlayStation 4 or Xbox One. I think both of those are really old. I wouldn't say throw them out. I'm just saying, like, to go for a budget option, there's so many good PC budget options still around there.
Me sitting here with my Xbox Series X. Damn, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, again, I don't have any hate for people who like play on their consoles. I don't really think there's anything wrong with that. I just think that at the end of the day, if like budget is the concern, like, console is not going to be the solution.
Yeah.
I think for a lot of the people that don't want to deal with all the attached strings of PC gaming, like, I understand that, but I know nowadays, like, the excuses are slowly wearing thin, especially with the Steam Deck release. Like, Steam Deck was a revolutionary release. That's something that I think people probably won't agree with in a general sense, but I definitely think it was a revolutionary release. Like, I think the fact that the Steam Deck came out changed how people see PCs, because now, instead of PC is just, oh, you just have a computer and you open up Steam and you play games. You got to build your computer and all the strings attached to building a computer and things like that. You just have it all in one little console thing that's still technically a computer. Admittedly, it's not the same as a regular computer, but yeah, it's
Yeah,
what?
I think with the Steam Deck, it catapulted like handheld PCs, the handheld PC market. Like, handheld PCs has been a thing with, I think, what was their name? It was like DPD or something like that. I forgot their name, but they've been doing it for quite a few years with like modern handheld for like PCs, but like nothing like nope. But like I said, I agree with you.
Did
Like,
JPD win? It's crazy.
Was it GPD?
Yeah, so GPD
was
Win
like-
was their original handheld, and it was relatively decently received. Like, it wasn't like anything bad. It was just very weak. Like, it didn't have very much power.
Yeah.
It was a lower end gaming handheld. And those things struggled a lot, and those were really like the kind of the dead bodies that carried upon the altar that the Steam Deck really came up on, right? Like all of these had to suffer and die with terrible performances. Like, I'm not saying performance was terrible, but like, you know, for the heat capacity, the power output, like the performances were like, you know, basically like they were under so much pain. Like, I don't think those computers were really like thought out to be running for 10 years. Maybe some of them are probably working fine and I'm wrong, but I think that just looking at them, like, no, you wouldn't be able to drag them across the field of glass, which is like, you know, playing any high-end game on Steam. A lot of those they hurt on. They were really doing better in the emulation field, which is why a lot of people just bought them for emulation. But I think that gap that was missing was also the fact that, you know, you needed a platform that wasn't Windows on a little like handheld, because Windows on a handheld didn't really work, because first of all, Windows Phone never happened. Windows 8 was trying to make Windows work on tablets and touchscreens and handhelds, but that never worked. So you kind of just had to go backwards until you found something that you know, satisfied all those needs. But there was none, because Windows didn't really like work on anything for a while on that. They kind of just gave up on the touchscreen market. In fact, Windows kind of dumped a whole bunch of money on mobile and just went, oh shit, we can't do anything. So they just kind of fell off a cliff, and then they were like, okay, well, there's mobile market, we're done with that. And on the other hand, you've got Steam, who was like, let's work with this, let's make a Linux system that has everything, that does all this stuff, that lets you do desktop mode, that lets you play video games. And Steam, after, like, they have been cooking so much, they're cooking so well, that once they released that Steam Deck, it was nearly cooked to perfection. Yes, there were some little bugs here and there, but it was nearly cooked to perfection. It was so good, and the user feel of things, like just going through the Steam OS's UI, was so impressive that I just, like, I can't get over it. I think it's amazing. Like, this Steam Deck, like, it was so good that it just changed that entire atmosphere. Now people are just like, hey, this is pretty much a PC. I could play all my PC games. I've got over thousands and thousands. A lot of them have controller support, right? As long as they have controller support to a relative degree, that means you could play it on the Steam Deck. So a whole bunch of games became available. Now, there were a couple that weren't. For example, you couldn't play games that were competitive. So you can't play CS2, can't play Fortnite, can't play Apex, can't play Call of Duty, right? All of these games were, you know, competitive-ish games, so you could not play them on the Steam Deck. Plus, you probably also can't, actually, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think you can play Blizzard games on there as well, right? Battle.net? Or Blizzard?
Actually, double check on that, but I
Yeah.
think you cannot. You can't even play. I don't even think you can play Fortnite on Linux.
No, you can't. You can't play Fortnite on Linux.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's a whole thing with Tim Sweeney and dropping it. Yeah.
Yeah, he's been under heat for that, and I think, like, you know, it's one of those things where it's like it's really disappointing. I really hope they find ways to work around that, but I can kind of see why it's difficult to do it, but they really need to rethink that. But yeah, no, I personally think that at the end of the day, I think the release of the Steam Deck was that significant that other market competitors had to pick up their, like, they picked up their pace, right? That's why you've got the ROG Ally now, and you've got the Lenovo Legion Go, which I need to do more research on it, but it looks really cool. I was actually
Was that the
really
one where you can take
take the Joy-Con
one of the
off.
controllers? You can take it off and you can like use it as a mouse.
Yeah, and not only that, but you could. Well,
That's
actually,
cool.
I don't know if you can use that as a mouse. That I actually don't know. I just know that you can use one of them, like use them as like Joy Cons
What's
of the Switch, right? Which is
yeah.
impressive because that's like, first of all, I don't know how they didn't get sued by Nintendo for that. That's crazy. It's like
I
Nintendo
don't know.
usually is really pissy about those things, but maybe at the same time they're like, well, we can't really sue them for like just a detachable controller. Like that's probably been done before. It's just that the one that uh, Nintendo does is a very specific one. And from what I understand, the Switch's detachable like Joy-Cons thing, it's like really weird. Like it can break or something, or it can like get stuck or something like that. I remember there were some issues with that. Plus, they had
Well, it
issues with
can
Joy.
break, but then there was also the whole drift thing that came around.
Wait, what?
They really like did years of like denying the drifting, and they got. I
Oh,
think they went
stick
to
drift.
court for it. It was crazy. Yeah.
Wow, that's impressive. Yeah, I don't know. The Devil Legion Go. I want to do more research on it, but when I saw it in person, I was like mesmerized by the screen quality for such a small handheld. It was I think the screen was I can't remember what it was, 1440p I think. It was a really nice large screen, and it was 144 hertz, just
That the
beautiful.
like
Legion Go.
the the first one or the second?
I think it's the newer one. I saw it in person. So like this last Boxing Day. Uh, it was I don't know. It was really beautiful. It was like 144 hertz screen, and that crystal clear, crispy, and I think OLED as well. Um, like that thing just looked so beautiful. But I don't know how good that system is, and also,
Hey, isn't it also running SteamOS 3 now?
well, Lenovo.
Yeah, the Legion Go 2.
I actually don't know. I saw it was running Windows, but I think maybe you can even ask them now. Maybe they give you options. That would be amazing if they do.
Maybe hold on, let me look. I mean, I found an article. It is I think it's running SteamOS.
Yeah, it's a
Oh yeah.
QHD display. Honestly, I'm like, yeah, I already have a Steam Deck, so I'm probably like the wrong person to go ahead and buy this, but part of me is just like, man, maybe I should just see if I can save up a couple dollars, figure out and try this out. It looks. Oh, it comes with. You can have it with like skins and stuff. I mean, you could do that with D brand with your Steam Deck, but still, it's like that's really nice. You can just put like a little nice skin on yours. Um, they even give you like a screen cover and headphones, a cleaning kit for the whole thing. Yeah, Ryzen Z1 Extreme. Oh, yeah, this is the part where you're supposed to puke. Windows 11 Home. Ugh.
Yeah.
Gross. 16 gigs of LPDDR5X memory. 7500 megahertz. That's pretty good. 512 PCI 4.0 NVMe M2. I would have went with a terabyte, to be honest. That's a bit of a letdown. 49.2 watt hour battery. I mean, I'm sure that's good. Super rapid charger. Sure. And then hey Tyler, we're still on air.
It's okay.
The podcast. Um,
Surprise guest.
yeah. So yeah. Welcome, Tyler. We are kind of at the tail end of the podcast, but we're currently just talking a little bit about PC handhelds as we're kind of closing up.
All right.
Just we were talking about the Legion Go. And I was just kind of looking at some of the specs of it just to kind of see how it's doing, because we came off of basically the major topic was NZXT, and how NZXT has like a program where you can share your computer, sorry, not share your computer. What was the program? It was, you can rent a program from NZXT, but the rental program was very controversial because it was basically like a big scam. Like you wouldn't get a good deal out of it at all. So that rental program was a whole like controversy because so Gamers Nexus, he did a whole video explaining why it was a scam and why it wasn't a good idea to do this. And I basically then went and put some alternatives out saying you could probably build yourself a computer, but even better, you can just get a Steam Deck, which then kind of spawned the conversation of like PCHandhelds and how they are the true kind of budget option that is starting to appear on the market, especially because the fact that you can just buy a PC handheld and you don't have to buy mouse, keyboard, monitor, you don't have to be plugged into the wall the whole time. You know, you don't need any of it to run PC handhelds. Whereas with you know, a console, you still have to sometimes buy a controller, you have to buy all the games, and then you have to buy you know, the live pass. Actually, one thing I was gonna say is you would still have to buy games for PC. It's just that PC just happens to have a lot of free games. So that's kind of like the main positive. Now, consoles do too. So again, that's kind of a moot point. But what I'm trying to say is there are ways to get games on PC much better than there are on consoles. Again, I'm not saying this to endorse things like piracy or games like sharing and stuff. I'm just saying that in a general sense, a lot of people on PC just happen to be able to move around games faster than they are on consoles. And that all has to do with how consoles are locked down and PCs are not, right? So anyway, I was just looking at Lenovo Legion Go, which is a kind of PC handheld competitor to the Steam Deck. And it's one that I think is really impressive for what they're kind of coming up with. Again, I'm still kind of like skeptical of a lot of things. I'm still waiting on a lot of things to kind of come through on it, and I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna say it right now. I really want to end up buying one of these to actually test out how good it is. It looks impressive. It was very impressive, but it is gonna have a bit of a decent price tag on it, and I would be down to kind of having like a direct head-to-head comparison with a Lenovo Legion Go versus a Steam Deck, and you know, that way we could kind of establish kind of a baseline.
Is this its own desktop, or does it take a virtual desktop?
This is its own desktop. So Lenovo Legion Go is not like a, you know, computer that just virtually connects to a different computer, or like a, you know, like a Stadia, right? This is like it's running like on the Ryzen Z1 Extreme RDNA
so
graphics.
It uses like laptops.
Yeah, it's almost like a laptop in a handheld, and it is decently big. I think it's bigger than the Steam Deck. I think slightly, like not that much bigger. It might be a little bit heavier, but the screen, I see the screen of this one. I don't think this specific one, because this specific one is not out yet, but I see the screen of the one right before the one that they're showing off here, and I see it in person, and I was blown away. Like I
don't like the way they're holding it in the
pictures.
Image,
yeah,
like,
it's people just, you know, they just assume.
I don't know. It just looks wrong, like the way you're holding. If it's that big and bulky, I don't know how heavy it is, right? So I'm just thinking, like, if it is decently heavy, your arms are gonna get tired. You need like your chair and then like a foot rest underneath to bring your legs up a bit.
Yeah.
And rest your arms on that, on your own legs.
I mean, I agree. Like, I have the same kind of thought process about like the Steam Deck. When using it, there's like a certain way you have to kind of sit if you want to maximize the potential. But then, you know, you add on top of the thing that this Lenovo one, this one actually has like a stand that comes out on the back. So you see where it says Legion right here at the back.
Yep.
I know people in the podcast can't see. I'm just kind of showing Tyler here. There's a part that comes out, and you can just have it as a stand. It doesn't show. Oh yeah, there you go. So you can have it.
So
you can have
like
it.
rest it on.
Yeah, you can rest it on a table. And it's a
Got it.
decently big screen, so you could rest on the table. You can take off the controllers on the side. I'm not gonna call them Joy-Cons because that's Nintendo is not gonna like that. Um, but
They're
basically, yeah.
called Conjoys, okay?
And then you could just kind of play with them discreetly removed from the device itself, or you could have a controller, or you could get a small dock. Probably doesn't cost very much to get like a small dock.
What are the multiple modes here that it's explaining?
I'm not sure the modes. Yeah, gameplay modes for every gaming environment. I'm not quite sure. It might be, it could be like, yeah, okay, here. I think it's this like handheld mode, FPS mode. Supposedly
Like,
this is
take
an
the-
FPS mode.
Okay.
Then detachable, which yeah, it's like the again conjoys, take it out.
Yeah, everyone got
Battle station mode, which is when you just connect to a monitor.
Okay.
Though I do think it's kind of funny that they've got this battle station mode, and they've got a whole Legion desktop beside it. Like, why wouldn't you just use the desktop? Why would you use the, the
No
handheld?
idea.
That's yeah, I think that's a
Sometimes the man just wants a hardcore grind on Terraria, then pick it up and leave all of a sudden.
yeah. And I don't know about this Legion glasses. That's augmented reality. I mean, sounds cool, but I'm very much skeptical about how good these
Yeah,
things
I'm
look.
skeptical of it too, because all the other VR headsets like give you like
My favorite,
your eyes are so close to a screen.
dude, my favorite part about that was when the Apple Vision Pro came out and they said not to use them in public or like while out or driving, and people did it anyways. I was like, dude,
Yeah.
it's like, all right, man, you're gonna crash, and it's all your fault.
Yeah, I don't know why people were doing things like that, but I think at the end of the day, I I really want to try one of these devices. I think there's a good chance that I'll probably end up getting one later on this year. Although I'm also trying to save up for something else, so there's also a chance I just don't end up getting it. Maybe with like some extra money I have left over, or if I end up doing like some overtime, I'll collect a little bit of money around and get one of these. And if I really like it more than my see, this is the problem. Is if I like it more than my Steam Deck, I'm gonna feel really bad because I really, really, really do like the Steam Deck for its operating system, the Steam OS, and everything else. So I don't want to be that guy. But Steam, Valve really, in my opinion, when they made their OLED, should have came out with like a higher end model with like a higher end what's it called performance CPU on it or something. But that's just my opinion. All right, so yeah, like again, I know that that's a little bit further from the topic that we were on, the NZXT scam topic, but
Yep.
it is a good tie-in because it's really our look at some of the solutions to that issue of instead of paying into a basically like a pyramid scheme level scam of extremely high interest rates that are worse than even some criminal organizations from what people have seen. Like that's that's something that I think we could say are good solutions is why not for budget you just go for something like a Steam Deck, and at some point instead of just going for like a full computer, if you are really in the go, instead of getting a gaming laptop, you get one of those things. You know what's hilarious is if someone says like, "Oh, I want to be able to do like schoolwork and stuff," it's like you can do your schoolwork on your Lenovo Legion Go. You can. All you have to do is just get like some sort of docking station, and you could plug in a keyboard, and you could just start, going on your doing your documents and doing all your schoolwork and stuff. And you're gonna have to I mean, one day we'll be looking at people downloading Lockdown browser. on the Nova Legion Go, you know? Oh man, what a time to be alive. Anyway, do you guys have any closing thoughts? Epic?
I like to say that I think these handheld PCs are a really great introduction into PC gaming. I think they actually, I'm just thinking about it for like the last like little bit of like I don't know, like 20 minutes, like or like you know how like PC gaming the entry was like a tower, these entry level parts and whatnot.
Yeah.
And then like you can get yourself a nice gaming PC. I think handheld PCs are probably gonna be like a decent competitor to getting into gaming, PC gaming, just because like it's like a $400 like handheld like for the Steam Deck, right? 400 US, and you can run a lot of PC games.
Yep.
If you maybe not run like the newest Call of Duty, that's one of the limitations, but that's more of a developer kind of issue rather than like an issue with the hardware itself.
Yep.
Or you can get a handheld with Windows on it instead, which is also an option. So I think these are like a good like I think they're fair priced
Yeah.
for what they are.
Yours? Anything to say on that?
No, I've kind of just been listening to it because I don't really.
You don't have much no input
This,
on it. Yeah.
well, I don't want to say it to where it sounds like I'm super dismissive, but I don't care too much about handheld.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
that's
understandable
fair.
because, like, you know, not everyone really has any need for one. A lot of people just won't have any need just because they don't really have to go anywhere where, you know, handhelds are necessary. They just kind of have their computer at home and that's fine.
Yeah,
Though,
like I have a Switch, and the only way I really use it is dock to play a game on the TV.
yeah, that's understandable. I think though one thing I will add though is that um, really emulation's going to be a lot of the strong point of a lot of these devices. So again, we in this podcast we will not condone anything of piracy. If anyone's running emulators and stuff, sure they're grabbing their BIOSes from their old systems and things like that. Um, and you know if they're running it, you know they're running it according to whatever laws they have in their countries. Um, but yeah, realistically, like as long as they're doing all those, emulation is really going to be the big thing. Um, Tyler, do you have anything to say?
Um, well, I haven't tried handheld gaming before, so I don't have much to say either.
Yep.
But if I do get a chance, I'll definitely think more about it.
I think when it comes down to it, like I don't know if it would be a big deal for you anyways, because you mostly play competitive games, right? Even when you
I
don't,
play
and even
the most non-competitive I'll go is like auto battlers, just because I feel like I don't want to do anything.
yeah, and I mean at the end of the day, when you play those, you kind of just can just play it at home. You don't really have any need to have to play it outside of home, right? So it's like not it's not like the first thing on your mind, right?
No.
Yeah. Um so yeah, I think at the end of the day that's like how I see it. I just yeah, I think the technology is really cool and especially for like for us, we all have gaming computers, but I know that, you know, someone's just coming out of like the whole console storm and they're like, you know, they've just been buying console stuff and they're just sick of it and they want to go into PC gaming like this is just kind of one of those ways I think really works out really well. So I think that kind of concludes everything. I don't think anyone else has anything to say. Do you guys have anything else to add in there? Um,
Don't do PC rental scams.
yeah,
Just give up that little bit of money. Just get a handheld. I promise you, it's worth it. Spend like the 20 USD for like a dock from like Anchor or something, and
yeah,
I promise you, it's worth it.
yeah. As long as the docs don't talk too much about like how their power configuration works, because I'm a little concerned about how things charge nowadays on like different power input stuff. Just because you know if you have the wrong amount of power input going to certain things, things can blow up. So please be careful and please make sure things are certified and things have reviews on them and people have confirmed that they're safe to be plugged in. Otherwise, that's like my only safety thing. Yeah, don't go for PC rentals. I would say just straight up don't do it. Don't do it at all. Like just literally do everything you can to save up your money. If you are just a gamer who just wants to get into some budget gaming, right? Like trust me, I know it hurts. I've been there when I had basically next to no gaming computer. I had only a netbook to my name, and I borrowed like my brother's old computer. But trust me, when you scrounge up all your birthday monies and all your whatever Christmas monies and all your Eid monies for my Muslims out there, like just hold everything on, keep holding, and then at some point, go and look at the solutions of either like a decent built budget computer or go for like a Steam Deck. Um, Please don't fall for these rental scams. I think that in any capacity, doing rentals is just not gonna lead you to a future where you're just gonna have like a computer of your own. Because a lot of them, they're very predatory and they will end up taking your money. Now that's the only one I really know of is NZXT, but there's probably others. And again, at the same capacity, I just think that it's not a good idea to keep throwing your money into that, especially because interest rates are the reason why that happens. Irius, anything else?
I with the rental things, I do actually understand there's some situations where it might be actually a good idea. It's just don't do something like NZXT or where just after a couple months the price will pass a computer.
Yeah, and I mean not only that, but it's just like for me, the reason why I can't recommend it at all is because like look, I understand there's a lot of financial situations that are difficult, but I also know that if you really put your mind to it and you really go ahead and you scrounge up all the money, you'll eventually realize that just the whole rental process is going to usually end up in something predatory. It's kind of in the same realm as like gambling, and that's why I don't really like I advise against doing gambling and things like that. I just think that they're very predatory schemes. They're made for the companies to really expand a profit on someone who just doesn't have the money to pay outright. That's what I personally think. Do you have anything else to say, Tyler?
Someone in my family actually did rental. But it was more of like a you pay off PC, I think. Like you own it.
So like rent to own.
Oh,
Rent
okay.
to own, yeah.
Like a
that's what it
lease.
was.
Yeah.
I think if you're gonna do that, if you're gonna end up like in that situation, do that. Don't
Yeah, like
do like
a monthly
rentals.
payment, lease or whatever. Yeah.
Definitely look at it if it's rent to own.
Yeah, I think leasing is more acceptable. I
Yeah,
think
leasing.
that's more realistic, and I have no problems with that if people want to finance or lease their computers. I do think that if you do something like that, please be financially responsible and make sure you have a job. Don't do
Yeah.
this when you don't have a job. They
And
usually won't let
understand
you.
that you're gonna end up paying more for it at the end anyways.
Yeah, but sometimes there are situations where it will be more profitable for you to have it at the time, especially if like let's say you actually are a pro gamer and you end up using this and now you can use this to actually like further your gaming career. Now I'm not saying most people are not, so please don't heed that as a advice if you're like diamond in Fortnite and you're doing this. Like I'm saying like someone who's already made money from gaming from before and you're just like struggling for whatever reason and you just need some way to get some equipment and stuff. Or it's not really gaming. I'm really going more towards like the pro scene. Like let's say you're just you render like episodes for like a 3D animated show or something, right? And you need to have a render farm. Like you put that on like the finance or a lease. Like that's more realistic for them, right? More beneficial in the long run because you can render all your episodes and make back all that money faster than waiting until you have enough money to actually upgrade your whole thing to make those episodes to make the quality that you need your episodes to be at. You know what I mean? So there are some situations where it will work. Again, I'm not saying rentals are terrible. I'm not saying they're the worst things ever. It's just the one NZXT is doing is really bad, and there are other options out there that might be okay, but I really cannot endorse them at this time. So anyway, we had covered all of our topics earlier. I think you guys don't have anything else to say on the other topics, I think, because we closed those off. So yeah, I think that should be pretty much it. Okay, just one last thing. Anyone else have anything else to say? All right, nothing
And
else.
most importantly,
Yeah.
have fun.
Yeah, most importantly, have fun, and Happy New Year to everyone.
Happy New Year's.
And
Thank you.
yeah,
Happy New Year.
and yeah, we'll see you guys hopefully within the next month.